Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hedin, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Mesa, Arizona. We are still coming to you live from Wisconsin. Ignore my cold, please. I might go try and sing some really low register stuff at karaoke later if I make it through this interview, but I don't know, man. We'll see how it goes. So, with me this week, we have Mario the Tile Guy Garcia, who is one of the founders of I think it's becoming infamous personally, the infamous mud event, which takes place once a year. And they talk about why you should mud your shower, right? Like we don't need to be foam guys. We can be mud guys, and we don't just have to do pans. We can do walls and all sorts of fun stuff with it. It's a dying art form, so to speak. There's kind of like one mainstay area in California that it's still the big thing, and so we're going to talk about why the mud event exists, and then we'll get into how that helps you, right? I don't know that it's a mud versus foam thing. It's a mud or foam thing. It's a tool in your toolbox. We'll dig into that, and then Mario's also been traveling all over for months and months, and digging into other people's businesses, learning new skills. And I want to get into what's changed in his life, what this is doing for him as a owner operator, and kind of where he's going and how that's going to, help his business moving forward. So before we get into that and we have Mario introduce himself, I want to let you know the Floor Academy podcast is here to help you go from owning a job to owning an asset. We're gonna address different business topics every Wednesday, like we have for the past 3.5 years. There's a ton of material for you to go through and learn a little something to go and apply to your business every week. Go do the work. You're going to see a change, and you will be more profitable, more successful. You will have the tools in place to hire employees, manage employees, bid jobs more successfully. All of these little things will add up over time. And if you can own an asset, you don't have to show up and do the work at an asset. The asset runs itself. And ultimately, who wouldn't want that, right? Go take a month off, go enjoy a Caribbean vacation. Your stuff's running. That's what I want to help you do. So, that being said, Mario, who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it, buddy?
Well, I went by the moniker Tile Guy on Facebook because, I created my Facebook I was ready to quit tile. I tried to quit tile multiple times before.
Sounds accurate.
Yeah, I was in one of those modes. I was gonna go to yet another trade school and try to go to do something else, and one of the times I went to school actually ended up benefiting me in this trade, but that's another topic. But anyways, my wife goes, hey, there's Facebook and there's this, and they have groups, you know what I mean? So she got me on Facebook, and she Googled, or she search barred tile.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And instantly, I think it was Tyler's Talk and Tile Geeks and Tile Love and this new one, Global Tile Posse.
God.
It was like 30 or 40 guys, barely any guys, right? And I was like, that's the one, right? That's the one. I'm gonna go to that one. It's small. I'm gonna start out small, you know what I mean? And I jump on the thing, and I don't know if you've met him before, but Dave Bidden. Like the very first thing I see is this dude named Dave Bidden in his underwear in a freezing basement, drilling up bin set on a video. And I was like, all right, I can work with this, you know what I mean? I start scrolling, and no offense, Shannon, I see this orange shit. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, a little more, and more orange shit. More orange, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? I literally thought I had stumbled onto a joke shit. I had no idea that guys were not doing basic mortared in showers.
Okay.
I had no idea. You know what I mean? That's all we ever did. I had like zero exposure to anything like that. Like I knew about Hardy backer board and cement board, shit like that. That was the hack shit. You know what I mean? That was
Okay.
guys would come from other states to come get a job. I only do floors, and we would run them off. They would never last. You know what I mean? And so then, but the tables were turned. I didn't realize that there was only like 5 or 6 of us. You know what I mean? And the rest of everybody else did that. And they were turning the tables on me. You're a fucking hack. Or, excuse me, you're a hack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing. You're a caveman. You're doing it some stupid way. Your shower's mold. Your shower's this. This, that, blah, blah, blah. Reciting all of the corporate taglines.
Well, not that, but I'm sure they're throwing, TCNA and NTCA standards at you and all this stuff, right?
And I think that before the things that they created, I think before I go deeper down this rabbit hole, I want to specify, you know what I mean? The Mud event has extremely good relationships with its corporate sponsors, and we have come through a very lot of trying, you know what I mean? A lot of effort. We've come to a common ground on what this is. And I really do believe that their interest in the Mud event is to mend that bridge. Because there are guys that do use systems that speak very negatively about the corporate aspects of said companies. You know what I mean? Guys tend to like their reps, but the company is always going to be the devil. You know what I mean? So, and I think that that's something that if they did not have our benefit in mind, their business model just flat out wouldn't work. So I think that there's a lot of them trying to find their way to convey that we're all in the same game. Ultimately, we're all in the same game. If they're promoting something to us that really ultimately doesn't work or is a sham or this and that, they'll go away. There's companies like that all the time that come and go.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Right. So ultimately, they're working for our benefit, right?
Yes. Look, they spend too much on research and development, right? Millions of dollars goes into, hundreds of thousands at a minimum go into getting a product to market. It works, right? So when I see everybody going online and like, oh, it doesn't work for me, this product sucks, I'm like, okay, there's a problem with you because you're not, like, scientists made this, it's been market tested. It wouldn't be on the market if it didn't work properly. So you're the problem, not the product. Like, end of story. Hate me, light me up in the Facebook group. I don't care. You're the problem, not the product. Very rarely is the product the issue. And generally when it is, they will own it very, very well.
Yeah, exactly. And this goes across straight to the flooring side as well. You get these high performance, fast setting mortars that, you know what I mean, for feathering, for rendering, for whatever it is you're doing with it. And no, they're not going to work like traditional products. You know what I mean? They've been way over-engineered for a very specific task. If you try to use them for something they're not meant for, or you don't use them in the environment or within the parameters you said, they're not going to work. And the problem isn't them. The problem is you spec it out wrong, which again is why, you need contact. There's something I'm learning right now, where I'm at in Idaho right now, and even in Oregon, in Astoria, Oregon. There's not very good representation from reps there. There's no major stores there. There's not a huge retail market for this stuff. So reps that depend on sales are not going to focus on educating those areas.
Yes. I'm very spoiled being in Phoenix. Like it's a top 10 market.
Same thing here.
And there's so many people, like you can't not ignore my market and come and demo products and show them off. So 100%. And I think that's, if you want to get the newest, best stuff, you're going to be able to go and find that. But to learn something a little bit older, right? When we're in this discussion of like, why is Mud event even a thing? You're very centrally located to one part of California.
Right.
It's
Right.
you're here, and the rest of the world gets everything else. And so I think that's really kind of like let's try and stay semi-focused, right? So let's start there, right? Like, where is
Well, that all
mud
goes
showers
into
a thing?
well,
Go-
that's what I'm saying. Like that's where all of this kind of comes into hand, right? I am in a very huge tile market, Central California. It's the main distribution hub for the entire state. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Everything goes. I have every major, you know, flooring, tile, you name it, they're in Fresno. You know what I mean? Everything is there. Huge building market. We didn't know nothing about none of this shit. And reps don't come here. They know that we're stuck. Even our building codes are real, you know, just like they were 40 years ago. So they know that they don't have a market to sell here. So we don't learn about none of these new fancy products and fast moving products. We were like in this little bubble, huge bubble, that once we kind of opened it up and created the mud event, we had it in Fresno. Some of the reps started coming. You know, Lance Latham with DeSoto Sales was an
Mhm.
early, they were our original sponsor. And really, ultimately, without him in particular and the company that he worked for, there wouldn't be a mud event. There absolutely would not be a mud event. You know, Lance was able to use his existing relationships in the flooring and tile because a lot of these guys that he got to participate in our event from tile, he leveraged his business dealings with them from the flooring side.
Okay.
You know, some of these companies he didn't deal in tile products until he wanted to, and that's where we all kind of met. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so once we started getting clicking together and we created the Mud event, you know, a lot of this was, you know, were his flooring reps that had tile products that started coming to these events. And originally it started out my guys, my Bud guys, coming and seeing stuff that they did. None of us had ever seen before. You know, none of these products that any of us had ever seen before. Even as far as tools, you know what I mean? We weren't, you know, there was no Gunlac representation, Monolith, Sigma, none of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We just used our basic flooring tools from you know Botini and you know regular tools, you know superior tools, Target tile saws, you know real old stuff, you know. So we started seeing all this newer products, and then it started turning into guys that used systems becoming real interested in like how are you guys making mortar from nothing
Mhm.
like, but you know like from nothing, you know. And it's like
Yeah.
some of the older guys that come to these other groups, they know how to make grout. You know what I mean? They've been doing tile so long there was no bag material, you know. And you know, and those guys are still on the field today. And it's like guys like that are to me are solid gold, dude. You know, this guy can go to a sand and cement yard, and that's the only place he needs to go to be able to do a shower completely.
Yeah. Well, there's the how old's that dude that's at the mud of? He's like 90 years old. He's
Yeah,
awesome.
dude, yeah, that guy straight up tiled Jesus Christ Mama's house. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, but it's a perfect example. He was a union tile setter. He had like I talked to his name was Pete. I talked to Pete one time. He had already been doing it 30 years before he even saw a bag of thin salt.
Wow.
Right.
So I mean, like
You know?
this is a tradition in the tile and stone industry. This is something that exists, and it's mainly based in this Central California area now, but it used to exist all over. It's just gone away
Right.
from it because building codes have
Right.
changed and standards have changed, and so it wasn't that it was this like tiny pocket of California, but you've started the mud event. And so since we're kind of focusing on that and getting it a little like I want to get it attention, right? Because I think it's a really cool event. It's outside of what most industry events are. Um, it's a bunch of guys that were from this area of California. It's moved to Idaho, partially because of COVID at the time. but there's constantly like negative feedback, right? It's for California. Like, I see it, and so, and not being the tile guy and not being from there, it kind of annoys me because I get what you're trying to do, and the other people that really are behind the scenes pulling all the strings, right? You moved it, but it's a California thing. It needs to stay in California. Why aren't you hosting it in California? So Mario, why aren't you hosting it in California? Why did it move to Idaho?
It's moving to Idaho because it's centrally located in the Pacific Northwest. That's kind of where, or just in the West, period. What is it from Arizona to Idaho? What,
It was like 13 hours.
12 hours?
Yeah.
On the road. Yeah, on the road, exactly. It's 13 hours from Fresno. It's 13 hours from San Diego. It's 13 hours from San Francisco. It's 13 hours from Portland. You know what I mean? It's most of the major cities, even out at Omaha, Nebraska. It's 12 hours from Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah.
So it's pretty, everybody can drive there in a day. When I was having it in California, that's a straight 24-hour drive for somebody. We got guys coming from Chicago, Canada, Florida, Alaska, Texas, so
Yep.
Idaho's just, the location, the venue. You've seen the venue.
I did.
You know what I mean? The venue is fantastic. You know what I mean? That's one of the other things too, is it's not just that, somebody as a shop owner, you're talking 4 days doing no business.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Well,
That's something that,
yeah. Well, okay. So let's go down that road, right? Okay. So you guys want to know why it's moved? Because what distributor do you know? Go find a distributor and talk to Mario once you find a distributor that wants to close for 4 days. There's a day of setup, there's a 2-day event, and there's a day of getting your shop back together. Okay. So go find somebody that wants to shut down for 4 days and then participate in the event. There's food being pitched in. He's Mike Foster's helping to make food. He's providing a forklift, moving stuff around. Like, there's so much that goes into this. And then the other part of it is Mario's trying to get it outside of California. I'll say it for him. If you stay in California, you're not going to attract all the other people that are outside of California. It's got to move. It's got to go somewhere. It's got to be this thing that happens somewhere and is a big deal. If it just stays in California, it's going to be, it's you getting together with your buddies, right? Like, it's the same pitch I use for why, like, look, I'm all for trainings and certifications, but if I have the option and I can find the finances to take one out of town, I will take it out of town every time because I'm more heavily invested in it, and I'm going to have to make relationships with the people that are there. I have to go to dinner with them and hang out with them and talk with them. Whereas if I do one in town, I'm going to go to the training. I'm immediately going to leave and go home and sleep in my bed at night. I'm not going to interact with anybody. I'm not going to do anything. It's a it's a waste, I think, to just go get product knowledge or training knowledge and then leave. It's all about the connections you make with other people. In fact, William Pino just called me like before we started this, and he was like, "Hey man, I got some questions about, putting down a floating floor." And look, he's out of Vegas. We all know he's a tile guy, but I've met him at multiple different events between surfaces and mud event. And so he reached out to me. That wouldn't have happened if I constantly looked for stuff in my area. And I was able to help him out.
Yeah, you're right. The mud event started out, the first 2 years, first 3 years, absolutely. Mud 3 was the party of the tile century. You know what I mean? It was that place was psychotic. And it was almost at that point, because kind of COVID hit immediately after that, that I realized, that was part of the reason why I was glad that it had this big breaking, because mud would not have survived if it continued to just be a party. Guys get bored with the house party, right? You grow up, you get a family, no more house party, right?
Yeah.
Same exact thing with mud. It was the first 2-3 years. It was exciting, this and that. Guys are going to get bored with it. It's going to wind out. So move to a new location. That solved that problem. Going to Idaho created a new energy I had no idea. Like, if you look down my admin list, in our mud event, the most active guys are from Idaho, Oregon, Utah, right?
Okay.
Adam Christensen. I don't think I have to say anything more than that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like the masonry god. You know what I mean? He's out of Salt Lake City. I would have never even met him. You know what I mean? If I didn't move this event to Idaho.
Yeah.
And then his story, that's a whole nother animal. You know what I mean? That's a whole nother animal. I love that, hearing about guys, because that's me, raising themselves from the ashes. You know what I'm saying? I always say, like you said, you go out of town for your things. If I don't suffer, I won't try.
There's no growth without being uncomfortable.
Yeah, if things are easy on me, I won't try. I just won't do it. You know what I mean? If you make it hard on me, I don't know what it is about me. If it's hard, I'm going to try.
I the same way, man. I've learned that lesson very, very well about myself this past year.
Right. And so going into the second year and expanding on that and having, the female attendants that we had at the mud event. Right off the bat, just the female attendance and participation. You saw it for yourself. I was beside myself, and then all the guys that didn't do mud and all the mud being thrown. And then because in the past I've done things with mortars and had corporate representatives call me and say, do not post that on Facebook, please, I'm coming out of the state because I got the green light. I mixed 209 with Trask out in, I went out to Trask and I was at Bergerson Tile for about 6 weeks, and mud work had dissolved in his area. He's a mud guy.
Yep.
And he made it. I mean, I agree with him 100%. The decision that he made to go to a system was absolutely the right move to make. He started out doing mud work and then doing Schluter above it, and now he does Schluter. And we put spec mix on the wall, 40 degrees, 90% relative humidity. It wasn't cold at all, just the humidity, and it doesn't care, right? So Laticrete specifically makes a floor mud, right? They make it per the environment. So they have like a Pacific Northwest mud, they have a Southwest mix, they have a Northeast mix. The mix for their 209 mortar is mixed slightly different per the environment you live in, right?
Interesting. Makes sense.
Correct. Yeah. I had no idea until I did it. So I turned around and I got the 209 and I put lime in it. It was an idea that I got from Carlo Craner and Mike Foster, where we have the event at. They were doing it there. So I called Mike and I said, what were you doing? He said, do this, that, boom. So I put the hydrated lime in the deck mud and made wall mud out of it, and I'll be goddamned, it cured. Like hard. Overnight. Because the base, the cement and sand portion of it had been engineered to perform well in that environment, right?
Yes.
Adding the lime to it just made it sticky and fluffy to have vertical application, abilities once it was done. So doing that, I mean, it worked fantastic. So then I text Ron about it. I was like, hey, Ron, we mixed 209 with lime. You would assume the typical response from them is, no, don't do that. We don't want you, right? 2 words, tell everyone.
Well, I mean, look, if it works and it's not going to mess up the chemistry, then look, we can move more product now. We got more applications.
He is the president, and he's the president of, I don't know his exact title, but he's the president, CEO, whatever it is, of Laticrete.
North America, yes, correct.
North America, and he came to the mud event at Mud 4, He got in there. He was doing it. He was physically doing it with Pete. With Pete. And he had brought a new mortar along, and guys were giving their opinion. And like you were saying before, they spend millions and millions of dollars on, scientists messing with these products. And he had the forward thinking even beyond what any of us are thinking. Was like, geez, I've got 200 mud guys right here.
Yeah.
Like right here. Like this is the end user. I can probably solve a year's worth of product review in one day.
Correct.
Putting it in these guys' hands. And he did it. And he got in there and he physically did it himself. And guys were telling him, I don't like this. Do this, that, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if he had that attitude before, but at least now I know he has that attitude. When we do our jackknife maneuvers with his products, he's all ears.
Yeah. Well, I think
because
it makes sense, right? A wise company is going to be in tune with their audience to make sure it's going. And look, the application for this is you should be listening to your clients. You should be paying attention to the market trends, what's happening design wise, right? If you're following that stuff, you can learn how to adapt the current products to stay ahead of the curve, or and so you can be the cutting edge.
I really believe that the mud event has grabbed on to social media and utilized it to its maximum potential. And our corporate sponsors and partners that are involved in it have realized the same thing. You get so many guys in one spot. It is not a sales event. It's absolutely not a sales event. It was an event that started out as a celebration of mud guys, which evolved into the spreading of our method, which has now evolved into some Frankenstein thing where people just come. It's like a melting pot of ideas. Rod Catwick showed up with this humongous foam thing. You know what I mean? And we were doing all this crazy mud work to it, and it was insane, to see what he's doing there in Utah, blending, a career mud guy working with foam products and really being the peak. I mean, that's my opinion, the peak innovator in foam work in the United States. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, the guy's wild.
Well,
right?
I think you guys are having a ton of fun, right? Like I experienced Mud 5, and it was a great time, right? No one gave me a hard time because I'm the plastic guy or I'm the podcaster, right? Like we all joke around online, and a lot of people take some heat.
We're all jealous because we're like all slapping ourselves. Man, we should have started installing LVP a long time ago.
I mean, maybe, right? Like, hey, I'll teach you something. You guys teach me something, right? I was just setting some tile with Russ Saluso, and like I wouldn't have met him without getting involved in the other areas of the industry. But you've started an event that is not like any other event, right? I don't go to the surfaces, and look, I love surfaces, right? They're a sponsor of the show. They help this thing happen. I enjoy those shows. I get to speak at their event. They put on a good show. They're getting better with having it more installer focused every year, but I don't walk around. I don't walk around their show floor drinking beer all day, right? There's not guys smoking stuff other than cigarettes, right? Like this is a grassroots event by the blue collar dudes making it happen for the blue collar dudes making it happen. It's a little rough around the edges. It's not a white collar event like most other large trade shows would be. And you still have corporate sponsors coming and showing up, and they're okay with this. They know what they're getting into by being there, but they understand the importance of being able to be in that environment.
Because like when I go to surfaces, right? When I go to surfaces has a very specific thing it was designed for, and does it very well.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Exactly.
It was the first one I ever went to. They do it very, very well, right? Mud event is targeted at the installer. It gives the These guys, like I hear it from all of them all the time, all my various reps that represent the corporations coming in. I see guys at surfaces, I wave from distance, knuckles maybe, boom, but I just pass by. They got a job to do. Their displays, they're this, they're that. Their job at the mud event is to grab a beer and drink it with your client and
Yes.
get to know each other on a personal level. That if I mean I'm not them, but from the outside, what I'm inviting them to do. This is your opportunity to come and send your ground level guys to there and be able to drink a beer with them. Because most of these people are old tile guys, old
Yes.
flooring guys,
Yep.
old boat guys. They know the lingo. They've lived the life. You know what I mean? You get to, and a lot of them are old school mud guys because they did this work at a time when none of this shit that's being sold today was even available. So they're all very familiar with it. So when they come and they get a chance to have a beer with this guy, smoke a cigarette with this guy, talk with so and so, they get more time interacting in a comfortable social environment there
Yep.
than any of the other events they do annually combined. And I think that your return on investment going to guys and developing that relationship of friends, comrades, whatever you want to say it, between your ground level guys and them is you're getting way more out of that than you do at these bigger events because of the organization, the hype. There's so much going on there,
Yes.
and
Yes.
they're more formal,
Correct.
and they're
I know
more formal events. Right.
1,000% agree. There is so much time that you can get one-on-one with people at Mud. If you want to learn something, and I know you're changing it up for Mud 6, and I want to get into that here, and we'll bounce into that, right? But I know you, like last year you did the wall demo, right? You put on a wall class. You had like 10 or 15 guys upstairs where it was just nastily humid as all get out, but they were up there, they were having fun, they were working hard, and there was guys teaching guys that knew nothing how to get a wall up. And then there was the shower pan demo for guys that don't know how to do it. The vendors get their time to kind of pitch in and show how their products can work with it. And like you said, it's not super salesy. They're not there. The vendors are there. They have product there. You can go and talk to them. You can learn stuff. You can interact with them. But honestly, they're not there to like pitch at you all day long. It's a show for mud guys by mud guys, and that's who's pitching stuff, and it's educational. So if you want a good time, I would come and hang out. Now I know you're changing things up, so we're still at Tile Trends again. We got Mud 6. What are the dates? You got them off the top. I know they're set. I don't know if you have them memorized.
August 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Okay.
I believe as of right now, we're dropping the CTI testing, and we're going to be pushing for ACT testing.
Okay.
So, MTCA dudes, I hope you're listening. This might be a little bit of pressure, but we're going to get this shit done.
I don't think there's a better place, man.
No. So we've already got the guys. We've already got this lined out. So that's the first day. Also, the first day we're going to be doing, instead of wall mud, floor mud. Something that I learned, I think is something you wanted to get into anyways, was I said before, I've been in this little bubble, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm learning all these new products because I've only done it like the caveman way, right? And I'm going out to seeing guys putting up foam walls, but foam shower pans are a whole nother animal. They're very delicate, and so they still mud their floors. But then I'm realizing these guys don't know the first thing about mudding shower floors. And that's something they do every day. So we're going to change it up this year because we've always done walls because guys are fascinated with walls. They go, hey, I float floors every day. My friend Chris Duchenne, right?
Yep.
From Chicago.
Yep. Good guy.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I sure do.
Great guy. He keeps going, him and his homie, oh, and I don't know why his name is slipping my mind, but anyways, they're like sweating me to do floors for 2 years in a row. I'm like, dude, come on, man. We're here for walls. You float floors every day. Leaving California made me realize, and working outside of California, we got a lot of work to do floating floors, which happens to be actually really, to me, doing both. It's actually a very technical process. You know just as well as anybody, making a floor flat, it's not the easiest thing to do.
No,
Well,
it's expensive. So that being said, let me ask you a question. How thin can a mud bed go?
In my experience, you're really starting to have problems. You know what I mean? Anything less than 3/4 of an inch.
Okay, so it's not going to be like for me doing LVP, and I got a 1/8 inch here and a 1/2 inch over there, and I got to do 200 square feet. I can't go learn how to do a mud floor and drop in mud and do it that thin. I'm going to have to stick with the self level.
Yeah, stick with the self level. That's something I had.
Okay,
and that's something exactly. That's something I had to learn about, right? Because we did a lot of feathering. You know what I mean? We would feather with thin set rather than I'm just going to say feather finish is the generalized term, but I don't know what they call what is a generic term for a patch, right? So instead of patch, we use thin sets as patch, right? So floor grinding, thin sets as patch, things like that for real thin shit. Then you start talking about deck floating, and yeah, the floor is going to get thick. You know what I mean? The floor is going to get thick. And before I jumped on these groups, that wasn't even an option. There were some extreme situations. I remember calling my neighbor down the street, who was a flooring guy, and he knew about those liquid levelers and shit like that. I used to call them water muds. We thought that the more water you poured in that shit, the more leveling effect it was going to have.
Man.
Right? You know what I mean? So I would call my homie in to come do it for me. So getting into these groups and learning about all these different products, and I think that a lot of that even has to do with why more tile-centered levelers are coming out these days, realizing that, we can do that shit too, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
My boy Matt Taylor in California, Antonio Cisneros, Integrity Tile, big time levelers. They caught on real quick when they seen that shit happening. That's the ticket right there.
Yeah,
you just level this floor out and boom, it speeds up everything so fast. The last day I was out in Astoria with Trask, the last day I was there, they're pouring, and I was like, I'm going. You know what I mean? Because so I was loading the mixer, and Trask and the guys, they were all in there doing the pour. And they did a fantastic job. It was a complicated pour, a lot of different rooms. So they had to do like a bunch of alternate rooms and then tie them in,
okay.
You know what I mean, to pull out. It was I wanted to be part of it because it was a complicated pour. It wasn't just like filling in one room.
Yep.
And they nailed it. They nailed it. And I mean, just that 6 hours that I was there, yes, it was like 10 guys. But, I mean, we saved a week's worth of labor and God knows how much thin set. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And again, no mud event. Yeah, I met Trask at surfaces and through granite. I knew Trask through the granite side.
Okay. Yeah.
It wasn't until I created the mud event that me and Trasky realized that we were both tile guys. and then even that, mud guys, on top of that.
Yep.
So
all right, I gotta interrupt us real quick. So just a quick word here. Not all foam boards have the high performance that GoBoard does. Johns Manville has been producing rigid foam boards for decades for commercial roofs. What does this mean for flooring and shower applications if they aren't exposed to the same harsh elements that a roof is? If it's good enough for a commercial roof, then it's even better for your flooring, countertop, or shower project, especially at a reasonable price. Visit www.jm.com/GoBoard for more information. All right, so I gotta steer us back. go ahead.
And on that topic, John Mansfield is one of our partners. They're one of our partners, and
Yes.
their representation, awesome people, awesome product, and now, again, I didn't even know about that without the Muddy Vent. I've got some foam board. My buddy Brant in Idaho
Mm-hmm.
is going to be doing a demo for them, and
Okay.
so yeah, so
Shauna does a good job, man. She gets out all over the place.
Shauna met him at the Muddy Vent. And, Brant's a great dude. Things like that. I think that like again that's just an example of what the Muddy Vent is facilitating in there. This isn't a for-profit operation. You know what I mean? I'm not banging on Brant's door going, "Hey, man, you met Shauna through me. You owe me 10%." You know what I mean? Kind of deal. That's not what this is about, man.
Yeah.
If they met each other, they created the little thing. The whole reason for the Muddy Vent was so they could meet.
Yeah. No. Well, that's it, right? This is your grassroots movement to keep this thing alive. So I wanna finish up on that, and then I want to get into like you traveling around and what that's going to kind of lead to you with you these days. So we got day one, we're going to do some ACT testing. Day 2 and 3, we're getting into like we're gonna still have walls going on, but we're gonna really focus on floors at Mud 6.
Right.
And then and obviously we're gonna have some corporate sponsors there. They're gonna have products and stuff like that. There was the standard people, right? You're going to have your big vendors that are making the mortars and thin sets and things like that. There were some tool people. There's foam board people. Who knows what else is going to come up? Any other big events big things we're going to try and have happen?
Right now, we're just going to continue to focus on the guys. Last year, I kind of wanted to start expanding and start doing multi-events. I think that's something that we're going to be looking to into the future. That's part of what I got going on. Where we're going to focus on probably more like I realized like in Oregon they have like a contractors training deal going on.
Okay.
Well, like I think they call it the JATC or something like that. I don't really know a lot about it, but it really intrigued me because I've seen a lot of young people there. They're doing that, and I want to kind of start tapping into that kind of stuff. I want to start trying to find out if there's anything else like that going on, finding ways to make satellite operations in other locations. But that just comes with growth. Who knows how long that's going to take?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I got a place in Phoenix that I know would probably be willing to hold the event. They got tons of space. So you let me know, right? At least it's still closer to California, so we can appease the California guys. And then, as I put in the clickbait for the episode, we made it look into getting you hooked up with the guys in Texas that are still doing like tar and screeds for wood floor installs, and we'll just make a combined event for you guys, and you can show off all these like super cool old school methods for getting floor installations done.
That'd be wild. Because I'm sure you've seen hot mopping is a touchy topic in the tile world too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But it works, and if you know what you're doing, it works. There's plenty of installs of hardwood floors back in the East Coast in basements that have been down for a very long time, and they're successful. I'm going to assume that they were. I'm going to assume they were done with tar. And yet you ask a guy today and he'll be like, "Oh, you can't install hardwood in the basement. It's too wet. It's not going to work. There's too much moisture." Well, what about my neighbor that's had one down for like 50 years? Why do they get one? Right? Like we've forgotten a lot of stuff. I think we it doesn't work. Well, we got products for it, man. There's ways to do it.
Right, but those products don't generate massive incomes for said corporations, right? That's the devil in the details. You know what I mean? There's no money in tar-based products that to say that they're so good. There's no money in sand. There's no money in cement. There's so in that, but that's the that has to be open. Right? You won't bridge that gap if you can't at least have that common ground. Look, you have to sell these products to make money or your company won't exist,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's, but participation in, that event is bridging the gap between the two because it's saying like, hey, we're not telling you not to do your product. We're just saying, hey, look, we have this. And then mud guys are getting their hands on these products and they're going, oh, wait, I can do this and I can do that because it's and I'm sure it's happening in the flooring industry.
Correct.
Where guys are getting old methods and, intersecting, because I'm sure what the LVP's got to be the foam of the flooring industry, right?
It's not.
Right?
It's not like that. It's God. There's so many people that hate it, man. But I don't have issues. But I'm super picky about how I do it all. So
I love it.
Well, because I can't install tile and I can't do carpet and I can't do hardwood.
If I could have done
I
it
can't,
all over again,
I can't do sand and finish, right? So, well, no, but here's the thing, right? I'm hated because I can only click together a floor, right? That's my skill set. I click together a floor. So you're not a real floor guy. You just click stuff together. That's what it comes down to. Whereas I say, no, I understand the science of how this plastic works. That's what makes me an installer. I don't click it together. I know how to make it last. Whereas you see plastics, the LVP suck, man. It fails. It always curls and it's not truly waterproof. No, it's not, man. It's waterproof bottom up and top down. So it'll trap the moisture in. So you have to be able to stop it from getting to it. Like,
right.
And so I don't have failures happening.
What you said right there is exactly what these systems guys say. I know how these systems work, right? I know how to apply them in the right situation, in the right manner. And that's why my shower will last every bit as long as your mud shower.
Yes.
We're over here on our end. There's only one way to do it. A lot of us are learning this new method and things like that. But there is a benefit to you learning older flooring methods.
1,000%.
Just like there is, and things like that to tackle old problems because you do get into older houses. You do get. I had Matt's working in an old house right now, and I know how the way these old ones are working. In the Central Valley, they used to get upstairs, and then they get the floor joist, right?
Okay.
And they would leave it completely hollow, and then they would cut like a 30-degree angle on the top of to make them picket shaped, the floor joists, right? And then they would deck mud over that. They fill everything in, fill that whole thing in. From the lab, from the ceiling up, from there, it's just completely filled with mortar. And they'd have these picket shaped deals. How the hell are you going to tack down, plywood or a subfloor to floor joists that have been cut like a picket at the top? Mm-hmm. Right? That mm-hmm. floor wasn't designed for underlayment. You know what I mean? That floor was designed to be buried in mud. What the hell are you going to do there? Right?
Correct.
So guys go through sistering all kinds of things and doing all stuff, and they're prone to failure because those floor joists were not 12 inches, were not 10 inches. Hell, some of them were even 6 inches. They wanted to reduce the amount of mud that they were putting in there, and so what do you do there, right? If you don't understand these 100-year-old methods, you're up the river about no paddle, man. You know what I mean? There's nothing you can do there.
Look, man, I want as many. I don't know why people feel this way, right? There's two groups of people. There's the people that are like, there's the way it's always been done, and then there's the people that are like, this is the new way. You have to do it this way. I want as many tools in my toolbox as possible, so I can walk into a situation, I can diagnose it, and say, this is the best way to move this project forward with this client to get them done on schedule, on time, and as close to on budget as possible. Now, granted, a change order might blow the budget, but if I can present multiple different methods or a method that's more cost efficient and still get them to the end result, good for me, right? I may have a preferred method. I can present that. Kyle, are there any other options? There sure are. We can do this. Oh, okay. Well, let's do that. Great. Let's have options. And so now we're working on learning these things together. But that's why, one of the reasons why you've been traveling, right? So we all know we most likely can't install forever. That generally speaking, not everyone can be Pete and be 90 and like still slinging mud. So the dude's an animal. Come to Mud and see him. He'll be there. He will absolutely amaze you. But in fact, Shannon Huffstickler hopped on. She's got a video. Shannon, can you post a comment if you're still listening and put the video of Pete up on this video in the Floor Academy for this video, because he's a beast.
It's wild. It's wild.
But so learn the different tools, right? So now you've been traveling, and what are you trying to accomplish through traveling? Because you have a skill set, but what are you doing through all of your ventures lately?
Until, I want to, mud event started out as a thing, and people then, asked, teach us how to mud, teach us how to mud, teach us how to mud, this, that, I've been behind the desk, I've been the installer, I've worked on granite machines, I've been all over this. And I had been approached to help other guys before. And I started thinking, okay, this is a great idea. I'm going to go to Texas. I'm going to teach motherfuckers how to do this, how to do that. And then, like, when it got down to the wire and I was leaving, because I'm really impulsive. I just do shit, and I just left and I went back to Idaho. And I'm on this grand mission. I'm going to be a consultant for businesses with, as far as means and methods.
Okay.
I want to work with guys in the field, and teach guys how to hone their skills and this and that. And then I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to teach guys how to set tile in Idaho? I never set tile in Idaho before, or Oregon. I never dealt with rain or snow, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now I realize the shoe's on the other foot now. Now I'm learning. That's still the end goal for me to do in the future, means and methods consulting for, dialing crews in and getting guys, helping them train their guys to get more production, and whatnot. But I need to learn what it's like setting tile in the snow. I need to learn what it's like setting tile in the rain.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know what it's like setting tile when your closest distributor is 5 hours away from you. That's a huge deal. That's a huge deal. Being able to know what to do in these areas. But, it just is what it is. Hell, you got going on over there, man? You got an invasion.
You're good, man.
You got an invasion.
I got invaded by my niece and my nephew, man. We're at my mother-in-law's. There's currently like 9 people in 868 square feet. We're doing real good. They're little though, so they're okay. Carry on. I heard you. We're good.
Yeah, no, and so, I'm going to be continuing to do that. I'm working with my buddy Ben right now, and great dude. And I've got exposed to Ben has got a guy named Brett who works for him, and he's got 107 years in the union. So I'm straight up back to helper. I love the guy to death. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm 100%. I'm the helper. You know what I mean? As long
That's
as
such a good attitude, though, dude. Like,
yeah,
look, how many people would come in and say, "I know what I'm doing. I don't shut up. I got this." Right? Go away.
This is a California guy, right? So that just right along guy. He's a mud guy, right? He was floating showers when I was still in my dad's testicles, right? So yeah. I'm his helper. You know what I mean? Whatever he says, I'll do. I don't give a shit. As long as he teaches me shit I don't know, mm-hmm. which I guarantee you, he's got a lifetime of shit that he's forgotten. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That he knows more than me. So, I'm really connected with him right now, and I'll help him do whatever, and I'm learning from the guy. I mean, I got that's a whole other podcast right there of all the shit I've learned from that guy.
Look, I think the important message here is that you you would like to get into consulting. I think that's really cool. I think there needs to be more of it. Sadly, I don't think there's enough guys that go from being installer to like owner operator of a business and then go out and look to do business consulting to help other installers be successful. I think that's a very developing field within this industry. And it's cool that you want to make it happen, right? But you went out and you said, I have a skill set here. I wouldn't know how to install in the snow. My wife would love to move back to Wisconsin. And I'm like, no, I will never live in the Midwest again. But one of the reasons is that I don't want to learn how to install flooring when there's snow outside, because I don't, it's miserable, man. I hate it. I'm from Arizona. Like, I want to go deal with easy. I hardly ever have to deal with rain. I never have to deal with snow. I deal with it being really, really hot, and dealing with it being really, really hot is easy to install flooring. So to have to go and realize, like, I need to develop these skill sets so I understand how an operation works, because even in talking with Trask, who's like, if we're just plugging the mastermind all the time now on the show, I guess. So if you're interested in growing your business, get a hold of me for how you can join a mastermind group and do that. But Trask is in he's in my guinea pigs, right? They were the first group to sign up and say like, hey, we believe in this vision you have, Kyle. But him and I were talking, he's like, dude, Mario came in and he was like, that's your problem and that's your problem. Like, you were able to look at his guys, look at the operation, and start pointing out like training deficiencies and like leadership deficiencies. And so you know your stuff, like, you know how to run a team and manage it, but you're looking to be able to like, okay, so they operate like this, or they operate with this skill set. And knowing that will make you a much more well-rounded coach and asset to the person hiring you. I think it's brilliant. But once again, to recognize and you have to get uncomfortable and grow. Like, that's the point, folks. You can't stay
sitting down with I sat down with Trask, and I think on some level there, I came in and I said, hey, can't do this. I need to be in the field, right?
Yes.
And Trask was like, that's exactly what I was thinking. We were on the same wavelength there. This can't be done in the office. Two things. Guys aren't going to respect a guy who just comes in and says he's the best, and you're doing this wrong. Right?
Correct.
Get down on your hands and knees and show these guys that you are not the best. Right? I'm just like you, guy. I'm just like you. I'm just a worker. You know what I mean? I get tired. I do shit wrong sometimes. This and that. You know what I mean? Nobody's perfect. Right? But I'm in the field, and I'm able to develop relationships with guys and get them to talk, and talk with them and see these things. And I trade, information with Trask, but at the same time, Trask was giving me the opportunity to work in an environment I had no idea about. You know what I mean? Working in a story organ is not the easiest thing to do.
It's a very niche market. I've talked to him enough. It's a third home market. It's a luxury market. There's the closest distributor is hours away. It is.
Yes. It's hard.
Yes. It's
hard.
unique.
And the amount of guys he manages, and employees, then the at least, I've always been more of a flexible guy. Trask has a very strict method that everybody's going to adhere to, this and that. Yes, there's holes in it. There's holes in any method.
Yes.
Right? But like I said before, the core values of that company, the brotherhood that he's created, and his family's created, and the goal of getting to a system internally with the company that everybody adheres to the same. Yes. Solid gold. I've always been the guy, he does it this way. Oh, that's just the way Frank does it. Oh, that's just the way Bobby does it. Oh, that's the way Jesse does it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm,
they believe. No, Trask is like, everybody is going to do it the same way.
Well, how do you train somebody? How do you put them in your system if everyone's not on the same page?
Right. And that's part of the culture that he's creating there, I want to say, because, something like he's happy when the guys come, They make their lunches there. They come early, they make their lunches, they have team meetings, they shake each other's hands, they drink coffee, they round up the materials, they talk about the day before. Right? I've always been the guy, what are you still doing here? Load up your materials, get to the job site, work, 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 work. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
But they've crossed that bridge long before I got there. Communication, that 15, 20, 30 minutes of communication in the morning in the shop is saving them hours in the field in the long run. And that's a huge deal.
Well, I think that's a huge valuable lesson for you to learn, right? Because you came, like you said, you came from like, well, this guy's going to go do it over here, and this guy's going to go do it over here, and I had 3 guys not show up, but
yeah, because my first thing was like, how come you don't have a guy that just installs? Because we have pan guys, right? The guy just comes and roughs in the showers. That's all he does. He's a float guy. All he does is float. He's a tile guy. You know what I mean? Unions operate in this manner. Production tile shops, a lot of them, they have really, he's a grouter. He's a finisher. That's what he does.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that has always been the common, that's the most productive way where you go to Trask and that's your baby. You're going to see this job, you're beginning to end, right? And my first thing was like, hey, how come you don't have dedicated guys to install a screw? How come you don't have dedicated guys to install a tile? How come you don't have dedicated grouters? One guy, this guy comes, it seems like it's more, but like you said, he's in a very niche market. His installer develops a relationship with the client.
Yes.
Installer, he's got a relationship with his installer. His installer has a relationship with the client. His installer's actually there, making the client happy, solving problems, doing things, working within the parameters that he set for them, which I realized is actually saving a lot. Where my guy would go there and goes, I don't know what you're talking about, man. All I'm here to do is put in the pan.
Yeah. Well, you were doing a lot of commercial work too before, weren't you?
Yes, a lot of commercial work, a lot of production
work. Which is way different than residential work. So it's a whole different ball game getting involved there. But once again, I think this is a really great, you're looking to learn. It's not that the method you knew was wrong. It's a system and process for a specific application. It works in a commercial setting. It works in a production world environment, right? I can send this guy to the gas station one day and get this done. I send this guy to the gas station the next day and he gets that done. I send this guy to the gas station the 3rd and 4th day, that gets done. And then I send in the grout guy and he wraps it up and we're done in a week, like piece of cake.
Right. So but you don't have to deal with a lady that is very concerned about this one cut in the corner of the room.
Exactly.
And things like that. And that's all these calls, you know what I mean? And a certain level of trust between the client and your company when they realize that these guys all are working together to do this thing. They can just, like, when there was a job I went to in particular, right? And the lady wanted a 3x12 tile herringbone through the whole thing, and the countertops were severely out of level, right? And I spoke with the client and I said, okay, I could do this. I could augment the pattern this way and it'll make the countertop look more flatter. I can do this. I can do that. And obviously I had checked with the shop before because I wasn't familiar with the environment, with their methods. And he said, no, do whatever it takes to work it out with them. You know what to do, right? So I worked it out with the client. I got it done. Client's super happy, this and that. And coming out of it, I realized, because at first I was like, you should be the one talking to them, bro. This is your client. You don't want them to be upset that you're not dealing with your job. But then I realized he picked the right man for the job, right?
Yes.
And he sent me there to deal with it. The client developed that level of trust with me, which actually increased their level of trust with the company as a whole, because they realized even their representatives of said company coming to work at their house are reliable and able to solve problems and things like that, made the clients comfortable. And like I said, now they're going to be burgers and tile for life,
Yes.
right? Because they know that, okay, Mario's not going to be able to make it, but we're going to send Billy in, but they're already going to know that Billy's probably going to be like Mario.
Well, and you're talking about this is a huge thing for owner operators to come, right? And you working in this space of like wanting to go and help businesses grow and look at their operations and whatnot. If you can't send your people into the field and let them, like, if you haven't trained them to work autonomously and they have like some level of authority, how will you succeed? If you have to go make every decision, right? If Trask would have had to have shown up to that house and dealt with that client, how is he selling the next job? How is he dealing with the builder that has a question about the project in 2 weeks? He doesn't have time to do both, right? He has to be able to say, my crew can go out and handle this, right? So I think it's a huge skill to be able to learn that, but you can't work a 20-person crew if you're unable to let that happen. If you have to micromanage them, you're done.
And you physically can't micromanage that many guys.
No.
There's no way to go.
The number's 5 to 8.
There's no way to run a business and go drive to every single one of those job sites. Because that was a conversation. How come you don't drive to every single job site every single day? It's like, Mario, I've got job sites 2.5 hours north and 2.5 hours south.
Yes.
There's literally not enough time in the day for me to drive to all of them.
No, there's not. And you can look, you have to trust people. You can average 5 to 8 people that you can have good management over. It gets really, really hard above that in trying to keep everyone straight, all the things straight. 5 to 8, right? So if you are the boss, right, and you want to run 20 crews, well, I would find a way to have like 2 foremen. And I would split up those 20 crews into, 10 crews to this guy, 10 crews to that guy. And if it's a 2-man crew, that foreman only talks to the lead guy, right? There's a lead guy, there's the apprentice. The apprentice doesn't come to the foreman unless there's a huge issue. It's not that they can't have a relationship, but in order to communicate for the job, it's going to go from owner to foreman to lead guy to apprentice.
Right.
And the information is going to come right back up the same way because the apprentice might want to go to the foreman with a question that the lead guy could have installed. We have to limit information going both ways and how it gets done, right? If we keep cutting over people and it's got to go to the top and it's got to go to the top, we're wasting time. And that's where I think a lot of these smaller owner-operator guys struggle is that I have to handle everything. No, you don't and you can't. You just can't.
Right. You can't do it. Even at the smallest of levels, you know what I mean? You really can't do it. I mean, it's almost too hard to do when you're alone. I call the one bucket army.
Yes. No, it's way hard.
When it's just you, you know what I mean? Like literally just you. I've been there. When it's just you, it's a fucking nightmare.
Oh, yeah. No, I am there.
Because you know what I mean? Because you can't do it. You know what I mean? You're talking about bidding this and talking to that guy and this. When it's just you and you don't have something that my buddy that I'm working for right now, Ben,
mm-hmm.
He got a phone call from his CPA, and his CPA was talking to him about this, talking to him about that, and I was like, holy shit, she's handling his office shit, right? He's completely taken that off of his plate to his CPA. And I was like, and I did the same thing eventually, right? Eventually I got to that, but I still held things back. He's totally with his CPA, 100%.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys don't realize how important a good accountant, CPA, something.
My God. And it's cheap.
Yeah.
It's so cheap. Yeah. It's way cheaper than you think, man.
We'll save your life, man. We'll save your life. I owed like $27,000 in taxes before I got a CPA. And I got my CPA, and in 2 years she had me clean, boom, done.
Nice.
But guys let themselves, like me, get beat up to that point before you let people help you.
Yeah. No, look, I get it, man. Look, I am the guy, right? And I know you've been there, right? You're trying to do the bids. You're trying to schedule the deliveries. You're trying to get to pick up the materials that you need because something weird came up on the job, so you don't have it now. You're trying to do
And
the
now you're
actual
fucking,
install. You're trying to do
and now your kid's fucking throwing up at school.
yeah, then you got the
You know what I mean?
you got
You're
the
like,
family.
ah!
But then you're actually trying to do the install too. I think one of the, like you said, right, having the CPA, get a bookkeeper, whatever it's going to be, make that hire first. And look, here's one of the biggest lessons I've learned, and I need to get better
Right.
at this, is hire people to do the things you hate, do the things you
Right.
enjoy. And so
Right.
I think a lot of people get caught up in being the owner operator, and they're like, oh my gosh, look at all the money I'm making right now. I'm being
I can
profitable.
tell. Yeah, I
And
tell guys once I realized if you were a money guy, you wouldn't be setting dial.
well,
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, really, like, you know, I mean, these guys that twist numbers and things like that, it's just like them. You wouldn't put a hammer in their hands, right?
no,
That's not what. Exactly.
no,
Your
you wouldn't.
job. You're not good at counting money, bro. You're not. You're good at putting tiles on the ground. You know.
Well, and some
Let
of them,
them do their
are
job.
good at doing it, right? They don't want to do it forever. But I think the point is like, I think people get caught up, right? And so like you can go on the Floor Academy website, you can get my spreadsheet, right? Like I want to find a way for me to get paid $100,000 a year after taxes to do flooring, and I want the company to profit $50,000, right? I can put the numbers in the spreadsheet I made, and I can work that out. It tells me I need to make like I think with everything I have going on now, I need to be at like 1,100 a day in labor. Well, that's great, but what if I find a way to live on 60,000 a year, and I make slightly less money for a year or two, and I take that other 40 and I invest it into an employee? Let's get somebody started training, right? And then as they grow and they make the company more money, that money will get replaced and I can put it back in my pocket, or it can go to another employee and another employee, right? You have to be willing, and this is a big lesson that I've learned and I haven't incorporated yet. You got to be willing to lose money. You got to be willing to, if you want to grow your business, you have to take less out of it. You got to
You
learn to live
you
on
know
less.
you know who you need to talk to? Antonio.
I don't know that I
Big
know
time.
Antonio.
Antonio Cisneros, Integrity Tile.
Okay.
Yeah, he was at the mud event. I'll get you tied in with him.
Okay.
You know, I worked with him for the last year, right? We started out in 1 year. We had 10 guys. We started out in this little $500 a month tile shop. And last mud event, and that was my last month working for him, we had expanded to a 10,000 square foot shop, plus another 5,000 square foot shop, plus moving to Vegas, increasing to 30 guys and spending over $2 million in machines.
Jeez.
I met this guy, Antonio, I believe at Mud 2. He had just got his contractor's license. So over the course of less than 5 years, you know, you're talking about a guy who's probably he blows me away.
Mm-hmm.
He blows me away. I just went to his Christmas party for their company just a couple days ago. You know, they got a brand new machine inside, and they got a brand new machine sitting outside, wrapped in plastic. You know, and he's been buying machines, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollar machines. You know what I mean? Like I buy tools at Home Depot.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, it's because he has figured that out within himself, how to, you know, live more reserved life and invest in his company more and allow it to grow to the point that it's unbelievable. I mean, he's buying a shop in Vegas right now.
Yeah.
You know,
Lifestyle inflation is real.
Yeah, that kind of growth is insane. Like it blows me away. I mean, there wasn't a day I would come to work because I managed and I estimated for him and things like that. I mean, just the way he would talk to me, I would just like he's you know, guys that think like that, they speak at a higher level. You don't even understand what's coming out of their mouth. because like the shit that they're saying is so and so. Oh, don't worry, Mario. We're just gonna buy this machine. We're gonna buy that machine. We're gonna buy this fancy truck. We're gonna move to Vegas. And in my limited mind, like, you're insane. That's impossible,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And then he goes to surfaces and he buys a fat machine. And then he goes to coverings and he buys another machine. And then he gets these machines installed. He goes to Minnesota. Who's going to run the machine? I'll learn how to do it. And he goes and learns how to run the machines. And then he's going to teach other people how to do it. Now I'm going to go to Vegas, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did in California there. It's like, who has that kind of energy? You know what I mean? Or
Man, he's excited. He's willing to take risks. He's willing to get uncomfortable and grow as a person. And that's a lot of us aren't always willing to do that. Now, look, you and I could talk for another 2 hours. I know that, but we can't. So, in the grand scheme of things that we've been talking about, whether it's the mud event, mud being carried on as a tradition, or growing with your business and learning how to, have multiple tools in the toolbox and expand. Is there anything that we didn't hit on that we should hit on real quick?
No, just a mud event is awesome.
And when is it again? Go ahead, get those dates in there.
We've been there August the 10th, 11th, and 12th.
August 10th, 11th, and 12th.
And
look, what I'm going to say is don't go to a hotel, man. I found me a cute little Airbnb up there. It was cheaper than the hotel.
Airbnbs.
And man, it like the lady, like, it was down in her basement. I had my own little entrance. I didn't get bothered. I didn't have to deal with nobody. It was like 1.5 miles from Tile Trends. It was amazing. So I would look in that route, and man, it's a good time. Yeah, I don't even do tile, right? I didn't get a chance to sling some mud, so hopefully I get to come up there in August, and maybe this year I'll sling some mud. Depends on if Mario puts me to work or not, so we'll find out.
Well, there's plenty of work to be done.
There is. All right, buddy. I appreciate you coming on and letting us know about the event, what it's doing, letting us know about mud in general, and then kind of what you have going on and how that's working with you and where you see yourself going in the future.
And me, myself, and the mud event, we appreciate you. You stepped in at a, short notice, high pressure, and you delivered.
Thank you, buddy.
So
I appreciate it.
So,
it was a good time.
And we're happy to have you again.
Awesome. I look forward to it. So, all right, folks, that's going to do it for us this week. Check out flooracademypod.com. We got our files section over there. Go get the business budget calculator. Go get the equipment tracker spreadsheet so you can keep track of everything for insurance purposes. Help support the show. Head on over to patreon.com/Floor Academy. Even $5 a month goes a long way in helping content to continue to be made. You can check out the shop on the website. Go get a good hoodie, get a t-shirt. We've got subscribe over on YouTube. I need 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Help me out. 1,000. I got 138. Help me out. Let's see. We got a word from Tice. It's time to make your plans to travel to Las Vegas with me to hit the show floor at the International Surface event. Our sponsor, Tice, has provided me with an incredible offer for you listeners. You can now register for a free exhibits pass with the code Kyle. That's KYLE for those of you who still struggle to spell my name. Registration is open online at www.intlsurfaceevent.com/register. It's all happening in Las Vegas the 31st of January through the 2nd of February, 2023. Plus, don't miss the special podcast episode from December, which will give you the inside scoop on what's happening at the event. I also want to throw a shout out to Preferred Flooring in Michigan. They have supported the show for a very long time. They both, Daniel and Jose, are in the mastermind groups. So if you do any kind of commercial sheet good work, go check out their website, hop on their shop, check out the stubby tools they got. They're these really cool rollers they import from a dude in Australia, and they help you make the cove super clean and the seams clean and stuff like that. They got some really nice stuff over there from Stubby, so go check those guys out. They've helped out with the show for a long time, so little love for them. All right, Mario, thanks again, man, and we'll catch you all next week.